This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the AIPIS show for accredited income property investment specialists and those who aspire to be. If you're a real estate, mortgage, or financial professional, this is the place for you. We'll explore innovative investment analysis, sales, marketing, and income-generating strategies for the most historically proven wealth creator, income property. Learn from the experts as they show you how to build a better business and a better life.
It's my pleasure to welcome David Richter. He is the founder of Simple CFO Solutions, and he is maybe the world's biggest fan of the profit first methodology. So we're going to talk about that today, and let's go ahead and take a dive in. David, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
And welcome. You're coming to us from Maryland, right?
Yep, coming to you from Maryland.
Excellent. And if you want to go ahead and share your screen, and some may be listening to this on audio, so if you are, we will go ahead and try and explain the visuals to what extent we can, and you can also see the video on our YouTube channel. Okay, so let's go ahead. So I guess I'll start with sort of a really fundamental question, and I know I asked you this before off air, but what is profit first, and what's the big deal?
Awesome. So I'll definitely go into that, and that'll cut down on the slide time. But the big thing behind profit first is a shift in mentality. For a lot of real estate investors, they think, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to sell the properties, and once I sell the properties, I'll pay everyone. And if I have anything left over, great. If I don't, it's just I'm reinvesting back into the business. But profit first says it is the sales minus profit equals expenses. So you have your sales, you take your profit first, you actually pay yourself first, like Robert Kiyosaki and all the other books tell us what to do. And profit first really is the practicality, the steps behind that. And to say, this is what you do. And in order to know that you can pay yourself first and to be a healthy company. So that in a nutshell is what it is. And honestly, it's like the envelope system for a business. That's what, if I had to just sum it up, that's what it would be. And then I think it's very practical for real estate investors because it's that shift in mentality.
Okay, so I don't want to make any assumptions, though. What is the envelope system?
So the envelope system in the personal finance world, that's where you take different envelopes for certain expenses, where it might be, for your car, or for your house, or whatever, and you're divvying them up into certain envelopes and putting money in there for, for those specific times. So that's basically what profit first is. You're creating different bank accounts to hold specific general business expenses or accounts for you in order to know where your money's going. And that's where it's more geared towards the owner than it is an accountant or bookkeeper. It's more for the owner to understand their finances when 97% of investors I work with, come to us and just have no idea where the numbers are, have no idea where they stand financially.
And when you talk about investors, I think you're mostly referring to the active type real estate investors who are doing fix and flips, wholesaling, et cetera, versus, many of our clients are the buy and hold type investors. You're not really addressing them, are you?
I work with a lot of buy and hold too. I actually work with a lot of those, and there's a little nuances to the different types of the exit strategies, but yeah, it doesn't matter if you're wholesaling, a fix and flipper, or a landlord, a buy and hold person. This methodology works for all of that. The practical steps to it just change a little bit.
Great. So take us through some of your visuals, if you would.
Sure. So first of all, I'm not a CPA, so here's the legal disclaimer here. Just if you don't like what I say, good, then you don't have to listen. So why this mission? Why do I want to do this? Because I started out in the real estate investing world with this group, with Wayne Schaefer, Tom Olson, Gary Harper. And my story is I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and wanted to do my first deal, did my first deal, then hooked up with a real estate investing company. And we scaled that company from 5 deals a month to 30 deals a month. So I've seen a ton of deals. But then even in that business, I saw number of deals done doesn't matter if you don't have the net profit. So that was like my first eye-opening to that, because I got to sit in every seat, and one of those was the finance seat. But from there, made a life change, moved to the Richmond, Virginia area, helped another investor kind of get his books in order. I sold all the properties I had from Northwest Indiana when I moved from there, helped him get his books. And he looked at me and said, "You've changed my life." And I said, "This is it. I need to get this message out of profit first. And I need this to be in the real estate investing world, because I'm a real estate investor, been a part of over 800 deals, but I've seen like, it's not the number of deals done, it's the net profitability and the health of the company." So that's when I dove into and started helping real estate investors on the financial side of their business really understand that. And that's when I read Profit First. I read Profit First, and it opened my eyes. Gary Harper said, once I started this business, you should read this book. I think it goes in line with what you're doing. I read it that night, took 10 pages of notes, and said, this is a great framework for a real estate investor to understand, how to manage the cash flow. So then once I read it and started implementing it, I with real estate investors and saw the life-changing things that it had done for them. I knew there were nuances from the original book that don't apply to a real estate investor, or there's a different way to set it up. So I went to Mike Michalowicz and I asked him, I said, "Hey, could I write the book for real estate investors, because of the success we're having, and the actual framework changes a little bit from what the original book is?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's do this." So that's when I'm right now in the middle of Profit First for real estate investing, because I'm on that mission. I want to change 1 million investors' lives on the financial side. So
let's dig into the system. So sales minus expenses equals profit.
So that's the
normal.
That's the normal formula. And that's where everyone gets it wrong. They think, let me sell all the properties, let me then pay all my expenses, and then what's left over, I get to keep. But that's right. Profit First flips that on its head. Sales minus profit equals expenses. So thinking of the mindset, that shift in saying, I'm going to pay myself first, make sure that I'm profitable first. So how do you actually do that? Like, what are the practical steps? Because once you get that from a lot of other books. So what do you actually do? The 4 steps. Number 1, set up accounts. So set up bank accounts. So what bank accounts would you set up? So let me show you. It is the modernized envelope system. We already touched on that. So I'm going to give you the suggested accounts right here. So if you have a real estate investing business, I'd have an income account, which is like a holding bucket. I'd have a profit account specifically designated to your profitability, and owner's compensation, owner's tax to save for your taxes, operating expenses. Those are the foundational accounts. The other accounts, OPM, giving, and charity, are my spin on the Profit First system. I'll go into those in a second. But those 5 top accounts are the foundational accounts, meaning that profit, owner's compensation, and owner's tax is all for you, the owner. They are the golden trio. They are the heroes of your business, meaning once you start getting money into that income account from sales or rentals, you're allocating the first percentages of the money into those accounts. So that's the practical step behind it, is set those accounts up first. The OPM is for other people's money. I like to do that with real estate investors because they don't usually separate out like those short-term loans from their operating money. And that's where I like to separate out. If you've got a rehab project going on, put it in a separate account for lender's money. So that way you're not commingling that and then getting into a bind. So that's where I set that up. Giving and charity, I see the investors who do that, who have the giving and charity accounts, and grow their business faster. For rentals specifically, I would set up a PITI account for your principal, interest, your property taxes, and property insurance. And then also the holding account for security deposits, like just making sure you have those set up for the system. And then others that I've seen is debt pay down and marketing. Like you can separate these out more to like really get a grasp on your finances. But everyone says objection, like that's way too many accounts. But can you set up one account designated for profit specifically and transfer 1% into that from every deal? Can you learn to live on a little less than what you're bringing in right now? So that's a key behind it. I'm
curious if was Mike the author of Profit First? Was Mike inspired by the old book, The Richest Man in Babylon, by chance?
I'm sure, because that's where I've read that book. I love The Richest Man in Babylon. Yeah. So I'm sure he was inspired by that. I'm sure there was a lot of other books too, because this theme is throughout this. But I love the system, the clear, simple system from Profit First. But yeah, I'm sure he was.
Let's talk for a moment about the most famous real estate investor on planet Earth. I think we know who that is. Of course, Donald Trump. Does he use the system?
As far as I know, I'm not sure if he uses this system, if Donald Trump would.
But conceptually, does he think that way, do you think?
I think he would at this point. It's probably where he's got that set up with the systems with the people that run this portion of his business, where it is like, okay, I need to make sure everything's separated out. That's why he could take so much in tax, like how he could know to pay so little in tax, which it wasn't $700, but he took so much because he was able to separate this out, probably do a lot of cost segregation or whatever he did, to get his taxes down to where they were as minimal as possible because he was able to separate out his finances.
Sure.
So I think this system works for if you're a newbie investor or if you have done 1,000 deals. This will at least give you a framework to have a handle on it. So I think out of all investors, probably Donald Trump has a handle on his finances. So he's probably running some type of system like this. It just might be a much modified version of it, or like he's got a super team of accountants around him to run it at that level.
Okay, good stuff. Keep going.
Okay, so number 2, making sure you pay yourself. So if you just do the first step and you just set up one bank account, make sure the second step is you're actually paying yourself. This is where I see a lot of real estate investors don't pay themselves or pay themselves inconsistently. That's 51% don't pay themselves. I mean, Inc. magazine, this is entrepreneurs across the board. And I'd say just in my collection of real estate investors I've worked with, that it's more like 80% that someone isn't paying themselves consistently or just paying themselves like as they can randomly, or there's no real set system for them to pay themselves. They're just trying from every deal to take what they can. And that's where, if you have that, what can you do to start paying yourself consistently? Can you either set yourself a salary and then take profit out, like to celebrate your wins, but getting a system to pay yourself like this, to set up that second account that's specifically for your owner's compensation. Because a lot of fix and flippers, wholesalers, landlords too, like what are you paying yourself from your rentals? Because I know depending on the goals of people and where they are financially, that's where a lot of people in the real estate investing world just don't even think about this. They think every single dollar has to go back into my business. If I pay myself, they'll feel guilty. They'll feel like that, like I'm hurting my business. But if you're not healthy, the business is not going to be healthy, and you're going to eventually have to go belly up. Like if you're not getting a system around paying yourself. So that's where the step 2 is setting up that second account, the owner's compensation, making sure you're actually paying yourself from your business. Step 3, there's a transfer rhythm. So this is the actual, when you get property profit in or rental income in, this is where in the original book, Mike talks about the 10th and 25th, but for a real estate investor, that is going to be wildly different. So when you get income in is when are you going to be able to consistently do something? I have investors that I work with where they sell one property a quarter. So we do a quarterly allocation and it's literally covering like their whole quarter. Or we have people that are selling several properties a week that we work with. So that allocation or their transfer of that income to the different accounts happens on like a weekly basis. But it's getting them into a rhythm to say, this is when I manage the finances. This is when I'm looking at them. This is when I'm actually being able to cover what I need to cover. So that's where a system just like this, to get in that type of rhythm, it needs to work for you, but there needs to be something where you can do it consistently. So that way you're always on top of it too, because that's where the power in the system comes from, being able to do it on a consistent basis and know where you stand.
Does it involve setting a profit goal? I mean, I know that sounds incredibly basic, right? But because of the way you do the formula, income, profit, and then expenses, do you set a profit goal at the start of it?
Yes, there's actually, let me pull up. I have got several other things here too. I want to make sure that I can get to everything. So in the original book, he talks about target allocation percentages. Like these are the goals you should be shooting for. So like as a healthy business, depending on the size of your business, because you can see from $0 all the way up to $50 million. So that way you can see, depending on the size of your business, these are the goals you can be shooting for as a fix and flipper wholesaler, even landlords. Landlords, there's a couple different accounts, like with the PITI or the vacancy, but this is like a basic goal to be shooting for. So like with the investors we work with, there's one whole thing that we go through. We assess their business, like what percentage are they at currently? And then we say, what target do we want to shoot for profitability? Like what can we start with right now? is that 1% or is that 5, 10, 15? Like, where are they right now in order to get there? So yes, that's a part of this system. We do that right away with investors. Like, what size business are you right now? What should we be shooting towards? And where are you currently? So that's where this comes into play.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's got awfully low tax rates and, profit. It goes up, then it declines based on revenue, and then owner's pay is really big at the beginning, and then it declines as revenue increases. I sort of wonder about that. I'm sure a lot of people ask that question.
Right, and that's because in the original book, it's more like as you get more profitable or you get more revenue coming in, you might be just taking draws as the owner and from the profit account and not paying yourself. You're more in that owner's box, and you might have other businesses going on or whatnot once you get that level. As far as taxes go too, this is 15% of the real revenue. So it's not like, it's almost like 30% of the total of what you bring in, because this is it's 15% of that real revenue number. It's like if you took out the operational expenses, it's like if you did 35% of that number is the same as 15% of the real revenue number. So that's where it's just like, make it real easy. That real revenue number is like in the selling or wholesaling business is like the property profit. So that's where 15% of the property profit, that's like taking into right from that top, that gross property profit. And then all the operational expenses or whatnot still have to come out. So it ends up being about, the same as if you saved 30% or whatnot after, like you paid your operational expenses. So that's where that comes in too. And then as far as profitability goes, this is just after researching literally thousands of business, and like what he saw was the most profitable or the healthy percentage points to shoot for. And I've seen this be very accurate because what I work with the investors from like basically 250 to about 5 million. And I've seen these percentages be very reasonable. I've had people where they've literally hit those targets, and they're like, this is where I want to be. So it is, I've seen it now pretty consistently in the people that I've worked with too. Okay. So then what rhythm works for you? And then the last step, build and keep reserves. This is like the true key to the whole system, is then being able, like you said, shoot for that profitability target and then not touching it, not raiding those accounts, not going into profit all the time and yanking money out, but showing that you have a profit in there. The rhythm for the profit account is, he suggests once a quarter, you take out a certain percentage of that profit account and actually reward yourself, because that's true profitability. And that's where you can see, okay, this is more of a system. This is more of the reward that I get for actually following the system and not just going crazy with my finances and having it all over the place. And then with the taxes, that's whenever you're paying your business or your personal taxes too. So if that's a quarterly or once a year or whatnot, but having those accounts set up specifically for you, because it gives your people safety, making sure that if you have employees, that they know that you have reserves, so that way that they don't have to worry about their job, and then protecting yourself from the IRS and for emergencies, whatever comes up. Who knew there was going to be a global pandemic in 2020? So that's why you need those reserves. And then growing your business. This is one of those things where it sounds backwards to a lot of investors. Like, why would I keep money to grow my business? Don't I need to throw it at every deal that comes across my plate? Well, no, if you have reserves, that's going to help your fundability with banks and with, the institutional type of that. But you're also going to be able to, as you grow your business, and as you get that institutional money, or if you're refinancing your portfolio, that's where you're going to be able to use the other people's money to grow and not yours all the time, because lenders like to see that. Doesn't matter if it's private lending or institutional lending. They want to see that your business almost doesn't need the money in order to grow. And it puts yourself in a better position to grow. And if you do need the money there for the deal, reserves are there to help you for what you need. So that's where a lot of people just don't realize that. They think, I get the money in, all of it has to go out the door and just marketing or whatnot. And then they end up wasting a ton of it without just thinking about that step. So that was basically it. I've got a lot of this stuff that I give away, or that I actually show over here. I give if people email this last email address on this last slide. So I'm not sure how you want to handle that, but that was it gives this system.
You can give it out or give out your website. I mean, I recommend a website, but it's up to you.
Sure. So you can either email this email address. That's where you can get a bunch of the free stuff. It goes into all those little those diagrams that I had on the other page, the tabs. gives you a chart of accounts, gives you the first 2 chapters of the Profit First book too. But then also, if you just go to simplecfosolutions.com, that's our service, and that's where we provide that. And we also have a Facebook group, a free one there that gives information. I get in there a lot to answer questions on Profit First as it relates to real estate investing. That's Profit First for real estate investors. And we have a podcast too for the Profit First for REI, so that we're just I'm trying to give away as much of the information as possible. Like in the book, these are the steps that I say in the book. I'm trying to just get the message out there because I've seen it now over and over,
right.
Change investors' lives because it's such a topic where a lot of real estate investors just don't want to talk about. And this just puts it on the bottom shelf to where they're like, oh, now the light clicks on and like, okay, I can handle this. So I'm just trying to get the message out there because it's such a simple one. Like you said at the very beginning, like offline, like I get Profit First, but like what in the world? Like it just seems like, why is it such a big deal? And I think it's because it's how simple it is, like taking the richest man in Babylon and saying, here's the practical steps to do that for you, the owner, instead of like the accountant or bookkeeper.
Sure. Yeah. No, it is deceptively simple. So, David, thank you so much for sharing this with us today. Yeah. I don't know if you actually gave out the website, so I just want to make sure you do that as well. Okay.
So the 2 sites, Profit First, REI.net, and then we've got simplecfosolutions.com. Both of them have information on them. Profit First, REI.net is where we host the podcast. And then the Simple CFO Solutions is also available. That's where I've been helping the investors too. So those are the 2 websites that you can go to.
David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.